before 9 a.m. Eastern Time, with word that a plane had crashed into one tower of New York's World Trade Center. It could have been an accident until this.
We just saw another one. We just saw another one. Another plane just flew into the second tower. This has to be deliberate, folks.
And Americans watched in shock as a second jetliner flew straight into the second tower.
Hey, let's go!
I'm standing on the corner watching, taking pictures. You can see the wings of the plane come from the south and hit the middle of the second building.
We're walking the dogs and we saw a plane flying really low, a small jet, and it flew directly into the World Trade Center, and then all the pieces fell to the bottom in seconds.
It was chaos.
Just get out of the tunnel and it blew.
Built in the mid-1960s, the World Trade Center towered over Manhattan. Each tower 110 stories. Over 40,000 people work in the two buildings. It is still unclear how many people were in the towers when the planes crashed and how the evacuation was going an hour later when we watched aghast as the towers collapsed. The skyline of Manhattan has changed forever. New York's Twin Towers are gone.
We are looking now at pictures, this of the second of the two World Trade Center towers collapsing.
Oh my God. There's been a huge explosion. Everyone's running in the other direction. There's been a huge explosion. Everyone's running for their lives, literally. Police, media. I see a woman pushing a baby carriage.
No, I'm all right. Let me go. I saw the building falling down.
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
I saw people jumping from the building.
I had just gotten out of the building. I was crossing the street when I heard some rumbling. I saw someone coming off the top of the building. I just ran. I didn't know where to go. My first reaction was to go down to a subway stop just to get some cover because I felt this cloud of all this stuff, the stuff coming down, the debris, and I thought that was the best, smartest thing. But I got stuck in there for a while. It was pitch dark.
And now all we are left with are questions. Who could have done this? What is the toll in human lives?
What happened was I was down in the basement. All of a sudden we heard a loud bang, and the elevator doors blew open. Some guy was burnt up, so I dragged him out. His skin was all hanging off. So I dragged him out and I pulled him out of the parking lot. This was what was left on him.
And what will happen now?
And we, of course, have no answers to that just yet. But one of the questions that a lot of people are asking are how did those hijackers get control of those four planes and steer them into their targets? Three of the four did expert piloting in order to achieve the job that they set out to do.
Right, these are big planes. These are 757s, 767s, not easy to steer. It almost seemed as if these pilots may have known what they were doing. Let's go now to our senior correspondent Rita Cosby, who joins us now with some late-breaking news on some terrorist pilot training. Hi, Rita. What can you tell us?
Well, Lori, law enforcement sources are telling me that they do believe that these pilots were very sophisticated, very highly trained to be able to make those quick turns, those very quick vectors, and to be able to do it at such a narrow window, to be able to do it so precisely to hit the Twin Towers as they did, and also the Pentagon. What I'm also hearing is, and they're pointing back to what came out in the embassy bombing trials. This is, of course, the two embassies in East Africa that were bombed, and obviously bin Laden was indicted, tied to those blasts. And what they're talking about, there was a gentleman by the name of Ihab Muhammad Ali, and he was a sympathizer, a bin Laden backer. And during the grand jury testimony, this was not in trial, but when he testified before the grand jury, he told the grand jury in that trial, in that case, that he received pilot training in Oklahoma in 1994, and also that he got some training during trips that he took abroad for Osama bin Laden. It's very interesting, especially if he did indeed receive some training in the U.S., particularly Oklahoma is interesting because I've been out there to Oklahoma City, and that is where the FAA has its own training center. So it's very very possible that he actually may have been trained by the FAA itself. A number of pilots sometimes go through the training center there in Oklahoma City. He was a taxi driver in Florida, in Orlando, and today, indeed, law enforcement sources are saying that they're looking at a name that just blared out to them on one of the manifests on one of the 4 planes that is tied to some locations in Florida, and Daytona and Orlando are some of the areas that they're looking at. So there appears to be a number of Osama bin Laden sympathizers in the Florida area. In addition to that, law enforcement sources are telling me, Lori and Rick, that they hear that what they received were at least 2 cell phone intercepts, that they were able to intercept 2 cell phone calls from Osama bin Laden backers. One of them appeared to be on the ground where they were saying, look, some of the targets have been hit, sort of jubilating and excited that some of the targets had been struck, indeed, by these planes. And then another one, it sounds like actually may have come from one of the hijackers themselves, a cell phone call intercepted by a hijacker, rather from a hijacker to possibly even another hijacker on the same plane or to somebody on the ground. But intelligence sources are telling me that they were able to intercept at least 2 cell phone calls indicating that Osama bin Laden was tied indeed to these 2 attacks, at least these 2 that were carried out, and obviously connected then, therefore, to the 4 others. Right now, law enforcement sources are saying they are almost 99% certain, is what I'm being told, that Osama bin Laden is behind this. And in addition, obviously, to the cell phone calls, which is much more hard evidence compared to other things that they were getting earlier, they are still looking at all the warning signs. This is the only man who had the financial backing. This is the only man who had the infrastructure for the World Wide Web, the tentacles really all over the world to be able to carry out this. And they also say it would have taken at least many months to plan this type of thing. And of course, they're trying to find out right now, was it somebody on the inside in terms of the airports getting in, who was able to get in this close? Were they all on the manifest? Were some of them able to just sneak in? Some of these things, of course, have yet to be determined. Back to you.
Senior correspondent Rita Cosby joining us on the phone with new information. Rita's sources saying that they are 99% certain at this point that Osama bin Laden was behind today's terrorist attacks.
That's right. Well, it is about 1:45 in the morning Eastern time. I can't even do the math right now, but it's, I guess, been something like 18 hours, something like that, since these attacks happened in New York City. The search and rescue mission, I'm not sure if it has exactly proceeded yet, not because of darkness, but because of the conditions in that area.
Fox's